Hello all. Lately in the news, we've been hearing this off and on throughout years now, is that nations and individuals in power seem to think that you can actually fight and win a nuclear war. One of the latest is, of course, Donald Trump. He asks, why can't you use nuclear weapons? A video. You may want to stop this video right now and go look at the Donald Trump video. Okay, I guess you're back. So now you know why I'm putting out this video and the importance of it. Let's go look at just some of the details of what happens when you detonate a nuclear bomb. Okay, nuclear war comes in many different tastes and flavors. There are many different types of nuclear bombs from one extreme to the other extreme. We'll go into that later on. But you have two basic types of explosions. Ground burst, where the bomb goes off at the ground level or just slightly above the ground level, where it picks up dirt and debris, humans and cows and grass and shrubs, and shoots it up to 30 to 40,000 feet into the air. And then it spreads out on top of the atmosphere, spreading harmful radiation and radioactive particles all throughout this cloud, which then immediately, within a few minutes of the bomb going off, these particles start raining down onto the ground and all around this area. So if this bomb covered 2 miles, you would have absolute solid radioactive waste all over the ground within 2 miles. Now, as the time goes on, the bomb will have it looks just like a volcano. If the volcano goes off here, there's a huge plume downwind, and all this area becomes irradiated, rather large area. But it also goes against the wind a little bit, so within a quarter of a mile or so, or even a couple of miles, you'll still have severe radiation falling down on the ground. There's also another kind called airburst, which is way up above, 3 or 4 miles above the earth. Now this doesn't have any of the radioactive particles that it picks up from the ground. So this type of radioactive burst, it's not good, but it's not as deadly as this in one way. In another way, this is even worse than that. Trump, are you paying attention? Let's say that the initial attack was extremely devastating, millions of people killed. However, there will be survivors in the outlying areas away from where the bomb was. But let's go find out what awaits them. It's nightmarish. So there are particles that will be raining down on the planet, and these particles are measured in half-life, is the way they're measured. So if a particle has radiation for 1 year, the half-life would be half a year. That's just the way they say it. There's still twice whatever the number is of radiation that's coming out. It's just a lot less after the half year has gone by. Okay, so there's two types of radiation. There's early and delayed. The neutron flux, which happens right as the bomb is exploding. These are the radiation neutrons that fly out in all directions from a nuclear bomb, killing everything that's living. It's mostly just around where the bomb hit. However, if it's way up in the air, the neutron flux, it can kill square miles of life on planet Earth. It's absolutely horrible. So that's the early one. That decays within seconds or minutes of the time of the explosion. It's one of the earliest delayed particles there are. It's called neutron flux. Right after the neutron flux, strontium gets thrown out in all directions and is part of the fallout. The half-life of that is 28 years. So this strontium-90 will eventually, over months and years, completely cover the Earth in a small layer of strontium-90. Strontium-90 is deadly to humans. You have cesium-137, which is a long-term also, or delayed term. It also will float all around the Earth and contaminate a large area. You have iodine-131, which is a early decay. It only takes 8.1 days to decay. So that one's closer to the bomb itself in contamination. Then you have tritium, which is a long-term or delayed particle, which takes 12.3 years of half-life. Now, this is going to be really bad for business for Donald Trump, because these particles will land all over his assets, such as his golf courses, his condos, his jet. All this stuff will become severely contaminated, and you won't be able to use it, be around it, or even be outside for at least 28 years. If you are caught out in this type of radiation, no, some of the long-term radiation will not kill you. In fact, humans have been under radioactive fallout since the tests in the 1950s and 60s that were open-air tests out on the ground. A lot of these tests were small yield megatons, but we also had two bigger bombs over in Japan. Those also are causing radioactive contamination to float around the planet still to this day, and all humans are being exposed to this radiation. A nuclear war would just add to it. Of course, what are the consequences of radioactive exposure? Of course, cancer. We've seen a lot of cancers increase over the years. The worst thing you can do is have a nuclear explosion and expect to live from it. There's no way, Donald Trump, you're going to live through a nuclear exchange. Let me show you one more thing over on the board. Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to tell you, was that plutonium-239 has a delayed half-life of 24,400 years, and the particle is so small it's even smaller than dust. So these are the particles that go in and causes lung cancer and internal cancers of all kinds. And we are breathing plutonium-239 as we speak from past nuclear explosions that were much smaller yields than the ones today. The yields of today are so much larger than the yields of yesterday. Here we have two countries, box and triangle. They're at war with each other. So because box is smaller and feels more threatened, they start the nuclear war. This could be Israel. Israel has nuclear weapons and says if they ever get attacked to where a large amount of people are killed, they will shoot nuclear weapons to all the Muslim countries and to Europe countries. So we have the threats. We have the nutty people out there, but let's see what happens. So they go and shoot a couple of nuclear weapons. Let's say they put 5 or 6 nuclear weapons around this city here. Alright, just that one city might have explosions like this around it. But as you can see, there's some areas that have nuclear weapons exploding. You know, there might be one here, then they shoot nuclear weapons off, and the wind's blowing this way in this country. So your nuclear explosions are like this around the cities, and of course some of them would probably be all around the city. Each one of these is going to have a huge radioactive area. You know, several thousand miles around will all become contaminated to where people will die 2, 3, 4 years after the explosion in horrible cancers. Some will die within hours, some will die within days, but all this area will have been contaminated severely at the beginning of the nuclear war. So basically, if we have a nuclear exchange with Russia, everyone on the planet dies eventually, within 10 years at the latest, for those that are farthest away from the nuclear fallout. Nuclear fallout, most of it decays within a couple of days, but it's these long-term particles that float around the planet forever, for 24,000 years, contaminating everything that it falls on. It becomes eaten by various animals, which then begins the cancer process. Wherever this particle lands in the body, that part will start the cancer. The body will try to surround the particle to get rid of it or neutralize it, but of course it can't, and it will just cause cancer in your body, and you'll have a terrible, miserable life left dealing with cancer. Now here's another thing, that all electricity on the planet will be devastated on the hemisphere where the bombs go off because of the gamma and other types of radiation, which will destroy all electronics. It will run along wires, railroad lines, any kind of steel, and cause huge sparks and explosions at the end of each one, killing even more people, especially if you're on a train. You're just gone, you're vapor. Jeez. Donald Trump, believe me, you cannot win a nuclear war. You just can't. He asked, why can't we use them? Please, if anybody has a line to Donald Trump, get him to watch this video. I would definitely appreciate it. I don't feel like being wiped out. Russia has a lot of nuclear submarines. Their submarine force is far bigger than anybody else's, including the U.S. They have some pretty tricky nuclear weapons which are launched from these submarines. They also have drones which are nuclear tipped. Small nuclear tipped weapons will be deployed on drones as well. We haven't got a chance. They've already said if we attack Russia, they will nuke the West Coast. Where are the targets? The biggest target is California. The second biggest target is Texas. Third biggest target is New York City. Then, of course, anything to do with military or military-industrial complex will be nuked, meaning Washington State, Boeing, that type of thing, blasted off the planet. So, nuclear war is not an option. However, all countries seem to be headed that way. According to some news I've heard, that apparently let's not forget to order the Pink Barrio t-shirt. Remember, some of the proceeds help this channel, and some of the proceeds help the artist and the maker of the shirt. So make sure you order. The link is down in the description bar. Another problem with using any kind of nuclear weaponry is the fallout on the ground that happens just from making it, researching it, manufacturing the equipment, and the infrastructure. For an example, let's look to Greenland in the 1950s and 60s. Of course, let's go over to the board. Back in the 1960s, Denmark actually had control of Greenland before it became independent. At that time, the U.S. asked to put a small base 800 miles from the North Pole in Greenland. What they didn't tell them is that it was going to be a secret nuclear launching base. So what the U.S. did is they went underground for thousands of feet in all directions and experimented with putting nuclear weapons in Greenland for launching against Russia. Of course, nobody knew that because it was a secret base. And of course, that's the way the U.S. always operates, isn't it? The problem is, in the 60s, they left. The only thing they took was their radioactive reactor, which supplied electricity to the base, which housed about 200 personnel. The problem is that global climate change started rapidly melting the ice in Greenland. When they left in the 60s, they said that all the hazardous material would be covered forever by ice and snow. But now, the Greenland ice sheet is quickly melting, and all this material, this hazardous biological, chemical, and radioactive waste, approximately 9,200 tons, is just sitting there waiting to be exposed and to go down into the water table of the oceans and pollute everything around that area. So let's see what kind of chemicals there were. There were 20,000 liters of chemicals of various types, 24 million liters of biological chemicals of different types, mostly sewage, and a ton of radioactive coolant water. The same kind of coolant water that's Fukushima is dumping into the ocean. We are now going to dump this water in Greenland's ice cap. There's also a ton of PCBs which are spread all over the place and apparently are already becoming part of the environment. PCBs never decay in the environment. They stay the way they are, causing cancer for all life forms if they were to ingest this or get it on their skin. People, that's why we cannot put Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton in office. They both believe that there is a way to win a nuclear war. Jill Stein doesn't believe that. Neither do most of the population of the world. Why are we voting for two people that believe in nuclear war? I do not understand, or why we would even think about it. If you're a Trump supporter, tell me why you would support somebody who's going to be detrimental to your own health. It's like voting for a gun to go off into your head. Makes no sense. You better rethink who you're going to vote for. Jill Stein's waiting. The Green Party is quickly gaining popularity. The SCP candidates are also very good, but we cannot put in Donald Trump or Hillary Rotten Clinton. So I appreciate all the comments last time. I don't know what's still going on with Google. Apparently they're still going at people. I think what we're going to have to do until Google figures out the comment section is no more links. Don't put any links because they're calling you spammers and all this kind of thing, even though they allow links. Doesn't make any sense. So I appreciate all the comments on this subject, and the ups and the downs and the new subscribers. And next video we'll go ahead and pick those numbers for the Tower of Truth. If you haven't put your number in yet, go to the last video I made and put down your number. Until next time. If there is a next time.